Greetings, doctor. The first activity that I will choose is the Venn diagram, as you can see. I would conduct this activity as follows. Firstly, I would ask the learners to give me names of animals that interest them. As you can see, that they would have listed the tigers, turtles, cows, sharks, ostrich, rhinos, as well as other animals. I would then proceed to ask them, what do those animals eat? Do they eat plants or do they eat other animals? And then they would give me that information. After receiving that information, I would proceed to draw the Venn diagram, as you can see. On this side, I would list the animals that eat other animals, like the tiger, the shark, the dog, as well as the penguin. And then on this side, I would list the animals that eat plants. That is the cows, rhinos, zebras, as rabbits. And then in the center part or the middle part of the diagram, I would list the animals that eat both animals and plants. So those animals are called omnivores. They are reliant on plants as well as animals for food. There is the ostrich, turtles, and birds, as you can see. So I would use this activity in the elaboration phase of the learning cycle. This activity supports the teaching of flow and the teaching of energy flow in the ecosystem, because it teaches the learners that some animals are dependent on plants in order to get food. So some animals depend on plants for survival, and other animals are dependent on other animals for what? For food. So they're dependent on other animals for survival. And then there are also some animals that can be dependent on both plants as well as animals for survival. So it shows that animals can depend on each other. They can also depend on what? On plants. The second activity that I was choose, it is the one who I'm teaching about the food chain, whereby I'm using a chain. I would firstly take the chain, show the animals that this chain is made of different parts that are joined together in order to make this chain. I would then proceed to teach them about the food chain, that different organisms can be dependent on each other for what? For food. For example, the sun provides heat energy to the plant, and then the plants grow, and then the insects come and eat the plants, and then the frog comes and eats the insect, and then the snake comes and eats the frog, and then the eagle comes and eats what? And eats the snake. These different organisms that I've listed, they are what? They are dependent on each other for food. It is a chain of different organisms that are dependent on one another for food, because the plants are dependent on the sun, and then the insects are dependent on the plants. It goes on like that. Okay, I would use that activity, the one of the food chain, in the explanation phase, because I would be explaining to the learners what a food chain is. That activity, it supports the teaching of energy flow in the ecosystem, because it is teaching the learners that the different organisms are dependent on one another for what? For energy or for food. As I have said, that the plant helps what? That's the heat energy from the sun helps the plant to grow, and then the plants help the insects for food, and then the insects help the frog for food, and then the snake can also depend on the frog for food, and the eagle can depend on the snake for food. So these organisms are dependent on one another for survival. Thank you.